Assalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh. Hello everyone, thank you coming to my channel, my personal channel, and in this channel, as usual, we are always talking about almost anything around us, especially in Indonesia, because we want to learn and improve and also upskilling ourselves day by day, despite our busy life and also our busy in business or many other things. Okay. Oh yeah, in this video, how about if we talk about this guy? We are talking about how the rating agencies and how the rating agencies evaluate the bonds in India and Indonesia. Okay, why we are talking about India and Indonesia? Because Indonesia is my country and India is the fastest growing market in Asia, and Indonesia number two or number three. So it will be comparable to evaluate this as a study case to understand the ratings from the ratings agency to evaluate bonds. Okay. Uh, maybe maybe in some moment in your life, I think you have met with this kind of rating. Yeah, this kind of rating. Maybe they said Switzerland or Japanese or Germany, maybe AA plus AA, AAA or A plus, or Indonesia is BBB, Malaysia is BB, India is BB, or any other kind, or maybe some country in Africa is D. Yeah, some kind of like that. What is this mean? That is a bond rating, and why it is important for us to understand about that, and then who are the player of rating agencies who are doing this, and what are their rating scale, how they do the rating, and what are the factors that influences that bond ratings, why some country get A, why some country get B, why it looks like a grading system in college, and how to calculate it with some example. Okay. Yeah. First thing first, we need to understand about the bond rating itself. The bond rating is an opinion that released by the credit rating agencies, and it said about the ability and the willingness of some country or maybe some kind of product or maybe some kind of companies to pay back its debt obligation to their debtors. Okay. Nah, usually, yeah, bond rating is expressing with a later grade, like in our college, like ranging from AAA to D, or maybe they are using A plus, A plus plus, some kind of like that, but it's still the same, the principle A to D, no A, I think. Okay. Or some rating is using E, but I think most of them are using ranging from A to D. Okay. Nah, how can this bond rating help us? Maybe if you are interested to invest in something, maybe in bonds in some countries, or maybe in to invest in some companies, it will help you to assess the credit risk of that bond, which is the risk that the issuer will fail to make the timely payments. So you can assess the risk before, I want to invest in some bonds, and I hope every quarter I get the payment. But in reality, you only get the two payments in a year, right? That means you can assess that risk first. Okay. So you are not just because you like some countries. There are some countries that are considered as your favorite. You are put your money in that in that country, and your money is lost just like that. Okay, you need to assess the risk, and it will help you. The next thing is, what does it mean if bond rating is higher? Maybe they got score A. Yeah, the risk is absolutely lower. Okay, and the lower credit risk, it's also mean a lower interest rate. So the lower interest rate, it will means more money to you. Okay, because the issuer has to pay to borrow money from the investors in this kind of bonds obligation. Next thing is the credit rating agencies and the rating scales. The most prominent ones. There are three biggest players in the world that you can read in the news of your country. They are Standard and Poor, S&P, Moody's, and also Fitch. Each of these agencies, they have a unique and have a specific or maybe some kind of trade secret to evaluating the credit worthiness of some product from the bond issuers. However, the blessing in disguise for us is they are all share some common factors that we can analyze the credit rating. Those kind of factor is economic performance, fiscal policy, monetary policy, external position, the political stability, institutional strength, debt structure, and also the contingent liability. So don't worry, you can still find some common aspect from those rating agencies, and you can understand it by yourself by reading the report from them. The next thing is what are the factors that influencing the bond ratings, especially in India and Indonesia. Okay, according to the S&P Global Ratings, India and Indonesia they have a long-term foreign currency bond rating of BBB minus. What is that means from the BBB minus? That means the lowest investment grade rating with a stable outlook. Below B is not stable anymore, so it is the lowest of the stable. So if you are investing in Indonesia for a long-term foreign currency bond rating, it will be a stable, but it is risky, okay? And that means India and also Indonesia, they have an adequate capacity to meet their financial obligation, but you need to underline this. They are vulnerable to adverse economic condition or sudden change in circumstances. Okay, so they are not that resilient to adapting, but still, if there are no force major in the economic in India and Indonesia, they will give you a stable income if you are investing on their bonds. Okay, the next thing is we can see the strength and weakness for both India and Indonesia. The strength of India's bonds rating, especially, is because because India has a resilient external position rather than Indonesia. But on the weakness aspect, India has a weak banking sector rather than Indonesia's. The next thing is some strengths that support Indonesia's bond ratings are Indonesia have a favorable demographic profile. They are more convenient if you are investing in their market because of the people itself. It's are much more predictable than India. But Indonesia have some weakness, which is Indonesia have a weak institutional framework rather than India. Okay, so India and Indonesia have a comparable rating within the level of BBB, but both of them have a different strength and weakness, and also different opportunities and different threat to their countries in terms of economic aspect. Okay. What are the scenarios for India and Indonesia in 2023? I think some analysts may believe that Indonesia have an edge over Indonesia. Have an edge in what? In terms of attracting one investor in the high yield bond market in 2023. Why? Because India have a faster economic recovery. They are more independent than Indonesia and not dependent on the external factor. On the other hand, Indonesia have a slower economic recovery because most of Indonesia's income in economy is coming from the export itself, and it will be dependent on the external demand, especially in this. They are mainly from the export, and for the service area, they are dependent on the tourism. Because of this, I think Indonesia, even though I am from Indonesia, I will say that in India may have an edge over Indonesia in 2023 for the high yield bond market. Okay. Nah, so how to calculate this? Let's say the Cantor-Becker model. Cantor-Becker model is introduced by Cantor-Becker and Cole, that they are plotting the numbers, and then they can interpret the numbers and mapping it into into the numbers like A, B, C, D. For example, if you get the score 70, you get A. If you get score 60, you get B. This model is kind of like that. Okay. The Cantor-Becker model itself is the one that used by S&P. They derive their numerical score after they calculate or assess some product or some kind of financial product or some countries, and that they will correspond it to the letter grade. They are doing mapping with that. The method itself, they are using the weighted average of 6 indicators, which are per capita income, real GDP growth, inflation rate, fiscal balance, external balance, and their default history. The weights of each component is based on the statistical significance and also the economic relevance of them. So the score itself is ranging from -10 to 10, and it is mapping later to a grade in the table. This is the example calculation for India and Indonesia. So let's say the per capita income in terms of US dollars, Indonesia is greater than India. The real GDP growth, India have a more aggressive GDP growth. The inflation rate, Indonesia is higher. The fiscal balance, Indonesia is better. The external balance, India is better because they are not really dependent on an export to on an export to their economic growth. And Indonesia has a default history. India, I think, may not from the data that I had. So from this example calculation, let's apply those formula. And those data is from the World Bank for the year 2022. So we can get the score for India around 4.225, and the score for Indonesia is around 3. So if we are mapping to the counterpactor model, well, we have the bond rating for India is BB, in Indonesia of B. Yeah, India may have offer an edge rather than Indonesia, because maybe for those two aspects, their default history, and then the second is India is not dependent on the external factor to growing their economy in this year. Of course, this is just an illustrative example and not the actual prediction, or even it's absolutely not a recommendation on the bond rating for these countries. Okay, you need to read the report yourselves, and maybe you can make some simple model yourself before you make a decision on buying some bonds from India or Indonesia. Okay, so here is some lesson learned that we can take. The bond rating is important business process. It will affect the credit quality and the cost of borrowing of bond issuers and also investors. So you need to read this first before you're investing in bond. The second thing, even though Indonesia and India have a same bond rating BBB by S&P. Now, because of their different strength and weakness, and also the dynamic condition of the 2023, India may have an edge if you want to investing in the aggressive economics in Asia. Okay. Why? Because India have a faster economic recovery. They are not dependent on the exports, and Indonesia have a slower economic recovery. They are dependent on the export and tourism. Of course, the model that explaining in this that had been explained in this video doesn't capture all the nuances and the complexities of the real world. You need to do your own research. Okay. Okay. So maybe that's all from me. I hope we can learn something new every day, despite our busyness in life and also in business and also in work. Okay, if you are believe in the mission on make this earth more humanizing humanity, you can subscribe my video and give a comment so we can improve and have more energy and an excitement to create a new video for all of you. Thank you. That's all from me. See you next video. Assalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh.